Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new Lil Peep record, Come Over When You're Sober, Part 2. This is the new posthumous full-length album from emo rap superstar and formerly goth boy clique member Lil Peep. Come Over When You're Sober Part 2, one of the year's most highly anticipated records. And not just because of Peep's unfortunate and sudden passing a year ago this month, but also because currently the strain of emo rap that Peep is known for is kind of the current meta in trap rap, thanks to artists like him and Bones and Juice WRLD, as well as XXXTentacion. Now, it's been no secret that I haven't really been a fan of Peep's material up until this point. I named his 2016 project Hellboy as one of my least favorite of the year, and with Come Over When You're Sober Part 1, I didn't exactly pull any punches on my dislike of that record either. And I can't really say my expectations were all that high for the sequel, especially since the big teaser track from this record, which ended up being a bonus cut, was the mostly unfinished collaboration with XXXTentacion, which mostly read like a cobbled-together cash grab, and whose intentions were already weird with XXXTentacion recording the song with Peep already having been passed, and now the intentions of releasing the track are even stranger with both of them being gone. So I had a fear going into this that the rest of Come Over When You're Sober would sound equally thrown together, but it actually doesn't. However, that could be because a great deal of the material on this thing is older. The songs Runaway and 16 Lines are a few examples of tracks from this thing that were put up and pulled off of SoundCloud at some point last year. Meanwhile, the song Life is Beautiful is a remixed and retitled track back from 2015. Still, even with a lot of the material on this thing being familiar to hardcore Peep fans already, this is a pretty competently assembled pop rap album with an emo twist. And when I say pop rap, emphasis on the pop, because the only thing the track Hate Me needs to be a song of the summer is a faster tempo and some bright quarter note piano chords splashing all over the chorus. But cleaning up Peep's sound and making it more accessible is a double-edged sword, because while the really smooth, airy production on this thing is well put together, and I guess it gives Peep's vocals a solid platform, the sound of this record is also really bland and inoffensive and unremarkable, just really unreal and sanitary. And while I can't say I'm a fan of Peep's past material, it seems almost antithetical to his style to clean his sound up to the point where it just sounds like a bad Blink-182 song, awash in reverb and wrapped in tacky synth strings like on the closing cut Fingers. What's worse is I think the production contributes to one of my least favorite aspects of Peep's music up until this point, and that's a sexy portrayal of some pretty dark themes. There's totally nothing wrong with addressing things like heartbreak and depression and addiction in your music, but the focus on these topics with Come Over When You're Sober Part 2 is softer than it's ever been, to where these issues don't sound like problems that need to be faced, but soap opera lovers that need to be embraced and stared into longingly. Even when Peep is making multiple overt references to his own death on this record, it comes off more edgy and seductive than it does chilling or disturbing because he's actually passed away. And I don't think this juxtaposition or Peep's infatuation with dying is displayed any clearer than it is on the song Sex With My Ex. It would be one thing if I felt this record was authentically displaying the dark realities of these problems. The instrumentals with their basic trap beats and heavy bass and bittersweet strung out guitars certainly aren't doing that. And neither are the lyrics, which most of the time are frustratingly surface level, even when Peep seems to be at his most personal, like on the track Life is Beautiful, which is one of the more reflective cuts on this entire record, even if the rhyme scheme, the A rhyme scheme of the track is tedious. I mean, sure, some of the song structures on here could be better, the hooks could pop a little bit more, but really it's the content of these tracks that I can't really get into. The lyrics on the song Broken Smile read like something the Joker might say about Harley Quinn in the midst of the Suicide Squad movie. And honestly, I still don't really care for the nasally, dejected affectation that Pete puts on his voice when he's singing. Granted, his vocal performances on this record, I think, are far more dynamic than Come Over When You're Sober Part 1, whose instrumental palette is way more one-dimensional too. Certainly the sequel over here does feature some better singing, does feature some heavier, more luscious instrumentals, which I think take the edge off of his voice a little bit, with his vocals being sunk into the beat a bit more. I also like the chorus and the grungy aesthetic of Cry Alone. The song Leanin' also stands out as one of the better tunes on this thing. Also, I Don't Give a F. Some of the lyrics on that track I found to be a little intriguing, with some nods to laptops and modern technology, the creative process in the digital age, emotions in the digital age. But outside of that, there's not really a whole lot about this record that appeals to me. And partially, I guess I could chalk that up to maybe this just not being for me. But honestly, I could easily see my way to liking something like this if the instrumentals were a bit more raw, or had more variation, or the song structures just had more peaks and valleys, or if the lyrics were a bit more thoughtful. But as it stands, I can't really get into the plain writing and the bland instrumentals and just the general ethos of this record at all. Though it's far from the worst thing I've ever heard, and certainly one of the more appealing things that I've heard come under the Lil Peep name so far. I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this thing. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Lil Peep, Come Over When You're Sober Part 2, forever.